Good evening and welcome to the June 12th, 2025 meeting of the Indian River County Planning and Zoning Commission. I'll call this meeting to order and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and staff, are there any additions or deletions to this meeting? None. We have two sets of minutes to approve. The first is the set of minutes from the May 8th, 2025 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The second is the May 22nd, 2025 minutes for that meeting.
Motion to approve.
I've got a question with those, if I could. As I went back and listened to the meetings, Susan, and I know it doesn't change anything, I know Commissioner Mucher voted in the affirmative, and then when the question was called, he didn't, which I guess that doesn't mean anything. I just didn't.
I think Mark might have gotten confused there because I watched that as well, Tommy, and the final count was different from what the original count was. But I think it was the way the question was deployed.
Right. And I don't know if that means anything for the minutes.
We didn't vote twice. I only voted once, and I voted against.
No, they had a special roll call, Mark.
Oh.
And when your response was no, I'm assuming you meant no for the
Rezoning.
development or the approval, but no meant you
No on the-
were voting for them.
I voted no on the motion. I didn't vote no for them.
Oh, okay, all right.
So you wanted the development to be passed, or you didn't?
No, I just didn't like the way the motion was worded.
Okay, which I don't know if that means anything for the minutes. I just,
Okay, so at this point, it's,
But there was a difference there.
yeah.
Yes, I agree.
so I don't know that we can, I mean, I suppose we can clarify that a little bit in the minutes, but I don't think it really does anything as far as the vote and everything that happened. It's already,
It was approved.
it's been, well, your motion to deny has been approved. Sorry, I want to make sure I say that correctly.
Yes.
Has been approved, so
Do I
we
understand
can,
it's been appealed?
yes.
Okay.
So we can talk about that later, yeah. So I want to make sure we're sticking to this. So at this point, I don't really, I mean, we could, but I don't see the need to. I mean, I think we understand what happened that night, and the minutes aren't supposed to be a word for word. They're just supposed to be kind of a recap. So I think that we're okay.
And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because if you followed the meeting,
Yes.
it was different, so it's, okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I agree. I will say that the initial vote, though, it wasn't 100% clear as to who did say yay or nay. That's why we went to the roll call. But the roll call was as it was, so we'll leave it as it is. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the table in need of a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Both sets of minutes passed. So we've got two agenda items tonight. One is a public hearing. That'll be our second agenda item. So the first agenda item is Indian River Motor Haas 3.0, and this is a request for a major site plan approval for an auto parking and storage facility. Indian River Motor Haas 2.0 LLC is the applicant. Skolke, Biddle, and Stoddard LLC, the agents. The zoning is CG, General Commercial, and CL, Limited Commercial. Land use designation is CI, Commercial Industrial. Any declaration of ex parte communications regarding this? Seeing none, anyone who would like to speak on this, please be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Very good, and we'll move to staff presentation.
All right. Good evening, Chair and members of the board. Before you today is the Motor Haas 3.0 major site plan. The property is located west of both US Highway 1 and 39th Avenue. It is also located east of Old Dixie Highway. The site is also split zoned with general commercial and commercial limited. All of the activity will take place in the general commercial section. The limited commercial section will be a conservation easement will be placed over it and stormwater pond, which you'll see on the next slide. So this is just an aerial of the site, just to give you an idea of kind of how this is going to look with the existing conditions. As you can see, the bare area, which is now to the south, that is where the conservation easement is going to go and the stormwater pond. And then all of the general activity will take place north of basically where that area that says site. This is the site plan. It's going to be a two-phase project. It's going to be a total of 9 buildings over both phases. Phase 1 will culminate in 4 vehicle storage buildings. There's also going to be the 4 parking spaces, and they're also going to add a gated entry. The 4 parking spaces are going to be before the gated entry. Also, part of Phase 1 will be the majority of the conservation easement and also the stormwater pond. Landscape buffers are going to be installed. Phase 2 is where the remainder of the buildings are going to be built. There's going to be 5 vehicle buildings that are part of Phase 2, and there's going to be another landscape buffer that we'll get into a little bit later in a more detailed slide. This is just the traffic circulation plan for the site. There's going to be 1 main connection onto 39th Avenue. It's going to be a full movement driveway connection, and then you're going to have your requisite internal drive aisles as well around the site. Stormwater pond is going to call for 1 wet detention pond on the southern portion of the site, so that is in the area that's zoned limited commercial. Your landscape plan is going to call for a 20-foot thoroughfare plan road landscape buffer. This is going to be on the western portion of the site for the whole entire Old Dixie Highway section. And then the eastern section on 39th Avenue is also going to have the 20-foot thoroughfare plan road landscape buffer, and then a little portion that encroaches onto US Highway 1. The northern section will have a 5-foot compatibility landscape buffer with the general commercial parcel to the north. Staff recommends that the PZC grant major site plan approval for the Motorhouse 3.0 project with the conditions listed in the staff report. These conditions generally relate to the dedication of right-of-way along the 39th Avenue, and then also the conservation easement that's going to be on the southern portion of the site as well. The applicant has been very diligent and has actually gotten all of those documents to county staff. We reviewed them, and we're working on finalizing all of that stuff now. Also, the final landscape, street lighting, and tree protection and mitigation plans will be finalized as well. We go over all of that during the C of C process for the site. And then finally, they have to construct all the other improvements indicated on the site plan, which would also include the external sidewalks along Old Dixie, 39th, and then that little sliver of US Highway 1. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Brandon. Any commissioner questions to staff on my left?
I've got one, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Brandon, this is classified as a major site plan approval.
Yes.
Where is this destined to go when it comes to zoning? Because what you're talking about, you need a major site plan approval. Why?
Yeah, so this is over 150,000 square feet of impervious area. So because it's over 150,000 square feet, it comes to the PZC for approval. Anything under 150,000 square feet of impervious is a staff level approval.
Okay, I know, I got that.
Yep.
And actually looking at how all this is done, God, I wish others would follow how this is. Now, this is a great concept, and I think kudos to Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good on the left? Any questions on the right? We'll open this for public comment, if anybody from the public would like to speak.
Joe Scholke, Scholke Biddle and Stoddard, Vero Beach, Florida. Also, Any Remote House 3.0 LLC, engineer and applicant. I don't have anything really further to add. I just want to offer I'm here for any questions you may have. I could answer, but otherwise, I've read the staff report. We've had a really good working relationship with staff, especially environmental and stormwater, because it was actually a pretty complex project, meeting all the criteria with the environmental stuff we had to do. And Sydney at Environmental was really helpful, and Matt Soika in Engineering. They were great, and we kind of all worked together, huddled together like 3 or 4 times, and it worked out really well. But I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Any additional questions on the right? Any on the left? Call for motion.
I move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good.
Thank you.
Our second agenda item tonight is a public hearing, and this is the Indian River Land Trust Land Use Designation Amendment and Rezoning. And Indian River Land Trust Incorporated it's Indian River Land Trust Incorporated's request to amend the county comprehensive plan future land use map from R rural residential to C3, conservation 3, and rezone approximately 36 acres from A1 agricultural district to Con 3 conservation district. Any declaration of ex parte communications? None. Anyone who would like to speak on this matter, please be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Very good, and we'll move on to staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patrick Murphy, Chief of Long Range Planning, and I'd like to say welcome to all the commissioners here tonight. As the Chairman stated, this is actually a dual request for an amendment of the comprehensive plan and future land use map and a rezoning. So it's 2 applications being presented as one. Description and conditions, you see on this slide, the aerial and the property is actually outlined in red. The area to be redesignated is approximately 35.73 acres. It is located immediately south of the Sebastian Highlands Unit 11 subdivision, approximately 1,300 feet north of County Road 510 and about 1.5 miles west of 66th Avenue. The general area is characterized by very sparsely developed or even undeveloped large tracts of land. You can see there's a home directly to the northeast, one to the southeast along 510, and then most of this land are just very large tracts that haven't come into development yet. Sebastian Highlands is a medium-density residential development, and it is separated by the Elkham Waterway. On the future land use map, in that orange color is the R rural residential, which this property is designated, as well as the 2 properties to its east. All of the gray on this map is actually in the city of Sebastian. And then your L1, the Sebastian Ranch to the west, is a low-density residential. On the zoning map, you'll see the green color is the A1 agricultural district, which is what this property is zoned. The A1 zoning abuts the east side of the property to the west, and to the south is also to the east. To the west and the south are currently zoned A1, but this land is going to be administratively rezoned in the future by the city of Sebastian to a mixed-use zoning district. This, if you recall, was the Graves Brothers property that was annexed in Sebastian last year from the county. Sebastian Highlands is located to the north, is zone RS10, single-family residential, which allows 1 unit per quarter acre. Property consists of old-growth cypress trees, mature oaks, and native cabbage palms. An existing natural water course cuts through the parcel, flowing from the southeast corner of the property to the northwest corner. Portions of the property were previously used as an orange grove, but have been vacant for many years now. So, purpose of this request, why are we here? The Indian River Land Trust purchased this property using funds they allocated from the Florida Communities of Trust, which is a state-funded land acquisition program. And one of the conditions that Communities of Trust placed on the land trust is that if you're going to use these money, you have to redesignate the land for conservation purposes. So they were basically mandated to have to change the zoning of the land use to conservation. That is why they're here. The goal of the land trust property is to open this property in the future for a planned nature trail, wildlife observation platform, picnic pavilion, interpretive kiosk, and seating benches. So this property is going to be combined with some other properties we're looking to buy to do sort of like a nature walkway, a scenic byway through the property. Consistency with the comprehensive plan. So anytime we evaluate a future land use designation amendment, the most important consideration is future land use element policy 1.43. That policy requires that one of the established 4 criteria must be met to approve a request to redesignate a future land use category. Not all 4, but it has to meet at least 1. This proposed amendment meets the policy's third criterion. In this case, the subject property was purchased specifically for conservation purposes. As such, the acquisition of the property by the land trust constitutes a substantial change in circumstance that affects the subject property. That is all they intend to use the property for. Next, we would look at what designation would be most appropriate to apply to that land when we look at these types of requests. Future Land Use Element Policy 1.5 states that the conservation land use designations shall be applied to those areas which contain or possess lands with qualities and features which play a vital or essential role in the normal functioning of the county's ecosystems and merit preservation as vestiges of once common county ecosystems. So if you recall the aerial map that you just saw, all of that undeveloped land out there has a natural water course flowing through it. This was the ecosystem that existed forever until the land started to develop around it. So this policy was put in place to apply this type of land use that they have chosen to a property just like this. And continue looking at the comprehensive plan, Future Land Use Element Policy 1.6 limits the use of C3 designated land to conservation and passive recreational uses. A site owned by a public land trust containing wetlands and native upland habitat would indeed meet those criteria. For that reason, the request is consistent with Future Land Use Element Policies 1.5 and 1.6. The property's existing land use designation of R rural residential allows for single-family development at a 1 unit per acre. The proposed land use designation of Con 3 conservation allows single-family development at a density of 1 unit per 2.5 acres, which is a much less district. Now, they don't tend to develop this as single-family, but for the purposes of doing land use analysis, I have to put that on there and compare when you're moving from one to the other, and what is that real comparison. The site's existing land use designation offers limited environmental protection, mostly in the form of open space requirements. In contrast, the applicant's proposal will preserve the entire area of the site, and development will be limited to conservation and compatible passive recreational uses, that being the walking trail and the kiosk. By prohibiting most types of development per this rezoning, the downzoning they're going from A1 to C3 limits this down to just a few uses that they can have. This will ensure that the environmental quality of the property will be preserved. A simple zoning district comparison, A1 zoning district is intended to provide opportunities for residential uses at very low densities to promote housing opportunities in the county. It allows traditional single-family residence, agricultural-based uses, institutional uses, and very limited commercial uses. In contrast, the Con 3 zoning district is intended to promote the management and protection of natural resources and systems, promote public awareness of the importance of ecologically sensitive lands, and provide limited use of publicly held lands for conservation and recreational uses. It allows traditional single-family residence, just like A1 does, but it also promotes resource management, conservation education, and limited, very limited commercial uses of a conservation-based nature, basically only silviculture and aquaculture. This is as base of conservation use as you can get in this district. In conclusion, Future Land Use Element Policy 1.43 also states that the Board of County Commissioners shall rezone land only in a manner that is consistent with Future Land Use Element Table 2.14. This table lays out all the zoning districts that are consistent and compatible with each of the established land use categories. So do they link up? Are they compatible with one another? Within this table, the Con 3 Conservation Zoning District is actually the only zoning district that aligns with the C3 land use category. So these are the ones that are married together. Staff have determined that the proposed amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan, compatible with all surrounding land uses, and will cause no adverse impacts on the provision of public services. The proposed future land use and zoning designations ensure that environmentally sensitive and important habitat will be preserved. For those reasons, planning staff supports the request. Finally, recommendation. Based on the analysis, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend that the Board of County Commissioners approve the request to amend the comprehensive plan future land use map from R rural residential to the C3 Conservation 3 future land use designation, and to rezone the subject property from the A1 agricultural zoning district to the Con 3 conservation zoning district. That concludes my presentation. Be happy to answer questions if you have any, and the applicant's representative is also in attendance tonight.
Thank you, Patrick. Any commissioner questions for staff on the left? Mark?
Saw somewhere that you mentioned passive recreation, but I think you also mentioned walking trails and things like that. Are those two things consistent?
Yeah, so When you, in terms of recreation, you think active recreation would be like a ball field or a gymnasium or even a soccer field where you're actively recreating, and passive would be more like your walking trails. It's a lot low impact, doesn't take up a lot of room, doesn't create a lot of noise. So it's very, very passive in its form of recreation. And that's exactly what the zoning district allows for, and that's what the plan is to use the property for.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the left?
Yeah, are there going to be any educational things tied with this from the, I guess we'll ask the applicant when they're here, but just was wondering if that was going to be some of their uses.
Certainly. I mean, our understanding at this point from speaking with the applicant is that they were going to have some kiosk on there that talks about the flora and the fauna that's in this property. But they can certainly get up and tout their project better than I can.
So it's going to be similar to Orca, the whole concept behind Orca, that walking trail and kiosks. Yep.
Yeah.
Good on the left? Anyone on the right?
If I heard you, there may be an intent to purchase other properties to create that walking trail, maybe adjacent properties. I assume that we might need to come back for an additional land use rezoning change, maybe comprehensive plan, if those other properties are purchased and need to be rezoned as well?
If they use funds from the Florida Community Trust, then yes. But if they use their own funding sources, they would not be, because they don't self-stipulate that. I did ask that question, though, before I got to this point, because if there was going to be additional properties next to this, I'd rather make this presentation one time. And I'm sure they'd want to go through one application process as well, and easier for all of us. But no, they assured me that if they were going to do that, then they would be moving forward with their own funding. But I will let Ms. West address that question.
Good on the right? Sure. All right, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing for public comment.
Good evening. My name is Rose West, and I'm the Land Acquisition Manager for Indian River Land Trust. I just want to touch on a few points that you all have talked about in regards to this project that we have. This is a project that we are doing now in conjunction with Florida Communities Trust, and the applications that are before you for your consideration are for the intent of getting the reimbursement money so that we can move forward with our project. And just wanted to also lay out that this is part of a larger network of trails, part of the St. Sebastian River Greenway Trail concept that y'all have probably heard in the past. This was a concept that was approved as part of the comprehensive plan back in 2006. And so we are slowly making efforts to start this. And this is one of our first places we're going to start building some trail. And we're working with our partners and other agencies and the City of Sebastian, Marine Resource Council, among others, to sort of see this through to fruition on the ground. So I just want to thank you for your consideration and for the staff's work on this, and also for their recommendation for approval. And last, I'll touch on the educational question of whether we're going to offer education there. And there will be interpretive signage in the form of a kiosk or maybe other signs. And also, we will be more than likely hosting educational tours on the property as well.
Any questions?
I've got one, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Rose, is this the property that the Indian River Mosquito Control District collects mosquitoes on? Or it might be just below that with the Graves property.
I'm not sure.
It's a gorgeous
I'm-
piece of property. I know the river is there and things
I
like
think
that.
that's the Graves. Yeah.
It could be.
Okay, no, it's a nice piece of property.
It is beautiful.
Yep.
We're excited to share it with the public with that trail.
Yeah.
So the waterway that cuts through, how large a waterway is that? What's its origin and where does it empty?
So this is the south prong of the Sebastian River. So it goes, Sebastian Inlet southward past the state park, under 512, down to 510, along the south prong preserve that the county has that they're going to be doing some new work on, and then further south. So these are really the headwaters of the south prong of the St. Sebastian River.
And is that large enough to canoe on? Would there be canoers coming in?
That's a great question. As far as I know, when you get as far down as where our property is, it's not really very well navigable. It would all depend on, obviously, the height of the water, flooding, and so on. But we're going to have a few efforts to try and see exactly how navigable it is. Actually, I'm planning to go out in a boat, and so I should be able to answer that if we speak again.
And, I'm sorry, public access will be from where?
So our intention is for the public to access this property on the trail network, which that is a future plan, obviously, and it's going to take some work with multiple partners. So this would sort of be a thoroughfare. It's not necessarily intended to be a trailhead, but we've been working with our partners, like I said, and Marine Resource Council has identified their property as a potential trailhead for this. And we also have the South Prong Preserve to the south and the Denton Tract, which is operated by the public utilities, or excuse me, Public Works here. So those are all possibilities. But again, this is, the very early stages, but we have to start somewhere. So we're starting on
in the middle and then having to adjust to get the access to go through that. Perfect.
Correct.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other public comments?
I would just like to say one thing to you.
Yes.
It was clear that Dr. Day was asking for questions on the right before Mr. Lowther, Commissioner Lowther so rudely went out of turn. But
Hearing aids.
I just want to commend you, yeah, he can't hear, for your diligent efforts. The county needs more property like this, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
And I was just going to ask, I was not here in 2006, and a little unfamiliar with the broader plans of the Sebastian, trail in its whole. Can you tell a little bit more about how this would fit into that and just, elaborate on it a little bit further?
Well, it's a little hard to do without a map. If it's okay, I can walk over a map to you in particular. I don't have one for everyone, but it's the original concept plan.
Yeah, and they might be able to put it up on the,
I don't know that they can from that, can they?
Yeah, just hit, here.
Video.
The guy upstairs did it for us. They're on it.
Yeah, it's clear.
So this trail, obviously, as it was intended, goes all the way up. It's about 5 miles long. However, the section we're focusing on right now is between 512 and 510. And this property that we're asking for these rezoning and land use amendments are really more towards this middle of that section that I just mentioned. I don't know if, yes, so right about in there. And it's just going to be a piece of the puzzle. It'll be an integral one. So it's something we're really excited about, and we have been meeting with the various partners and agencies along this to really get a jump start on this effort. I'm not sure if I answered that all the way. Did you have anything more
that
specific?
Gives a way clearer overall picture. Thank you.
Of course.
And I'd like to agree with Calvin. I love it when I see stuff like this come through. Just love it. And I hope you have many more parcels that come through. Any other questions?
Just a total spitball of an idea, but when we see planned developments that are trying to preserve some green space, create their own walking trails, it just occurred to me that if there were any that were adjacent to this, it might be interesting if there's the possibility to collaborate. I don't know that there are. Do a little bit more research, but I'm sure that's something that you're
Yeah,
exploring
certainly.
all the
We're
time
willing
yourself.
to work with everyone. We just need to start the conversation if they're willing to have it, for sure.
Did I understand that this was part of the rezoning, the requirement for this type of land to be dedicated for the conservation use? And is that why you were able to buy it for $10?
Oh, it was a little more than $10,
Was it?
but
I
we,
thought I saw a deed.
it was,
That's common and customary to just use $10 on a deed like that, sir.
Even though you paid more?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you can look up the doc stamps and you can do your math and figure out what they paid, but yeah.
so this property, this grant, rather, it does have a requirement for all the recipients, if they don't already have the land under a conservation designation and zoning, that they have to seek that before the grants are, before the money is dispersed. So our intention, of course, is, we've already purchased the property. if this moves forward and it gets an approval, we'll be able to receive that money come fall or winter, we hope. And then with those funds, our intention is, of course, to build out some of the amenities that we've spoken of, but also to acquire more property in Indian River County for conservation.
Good, thank you.
Great. Of course. Good, if there's no other questions, I'll close the public hearing. Any additional discussion? On the right, left, no, call for a motion.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, it is approved. Commissioner matters, we have a discussion item on the commissioner matters.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Ryan Sweeney, Assistant Planning Development Services Director. As a follow-up to last meeting, I did mention, and at the suggestion of Susan, that we have sort of a formal, and I don't want this to be a long protracted discussion. What I'm really only seeking is, if you all have the will, an affirmative vote to say, yes, we would in fact like to have a workshop to discuss the plan development process with a joint workshop with the BCC. If I get an affirmative vote, I'll pen a letter on behalf of the chair and have him sign it. We'll send it to the board. I can tell you right now, we're going into summer break months, so it may be some time to coordinate all of your schedules as well as the commissioners. But so with that, you guys are welcome to have a brief conversation if you like. Otherwise, all I would really like is a motion and a second. And Calvin.
Ryan, I have a comment, though.
Go ahead.
And Commissioner Lowther had a great point last meeting. We don't want to be counteractive to what the county commission is looking for.
Sure.
And if we're spinning our wheels in here, accepting or denying things they don't want,
Right.
we need to be on the same page per se.
Sure.
That last meeting may not have gone the way staff intended, but we, I think, need to spend the time with the county commissioners and find out where they stand. So I'm all for it.
And I'd like a better understanding of the whole PD concept
Sure.
to begin with.
I am going to touch base specifically on the item from last meeting under planning matters, just to clarify one item, but this is just sort of the bigger concept of, so if, like I said, if whether it's in a formal motion and second, or even just a consensus, if at least 4 out of the 7 of you want to sort of move forward in that formal capacity.
I think there's more than 4 out of 7.
Okay, everybody's nodding,
Yeah,
so.
no, you
It looks to
probably
me
have
like it's pretty
unanimous.
unanimous,
Yeah.
right?
So let's call for a motion on having this joint.
I'll make a motion that we have a workshop.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right,
All right.
sounds like.
So like I said, I'll draft a letter on your behalf, Dr. Day, and we'll get it on the commission's radar, and then
Yep.
we'll work on scheduling.
Very good. So let's move to planning matters.
Sure, I do want to clarify, I did misspeak during the last meeting, and it's only probably because we very rarely see PD rezonings as opposed to PD special exceptions. So because that last project was a PD rezoning, conceptual PD, and preliminary PD, the rezoning portion specifically, our code is very unique in that there's one sentence in it that says any denial, if the Planning and Zoning Commission denies a rezoning request, it stops right there. I misspoke and said, no, this is a purely a recommendation, it will automatically proceed to the board. They do have the right to appeal the decision to the board, which they have, and we're already working towards scheduling that item for July 1st. But I just wanted to clarify, I misspoke, and again, it's only because we maybe have done 5 PD rezonings in the time I've been here, so I misspoke about that.
Even another reason for a workshop.
Yeah, there you go. Well, even myself, you know.
And that's why I brought that up, Ryan.
Sure.
Because we've done that before.
Sure.
And no, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse, but it's good.
Just for my own education, what happens when it gets appealed to the board? Let's say, does it come back to us, or does the board make a decision?
The board will make the final decision, whether to either uphold your decision to deny or to overturn and effectively approve. And we'll, of course, I'll update you after that meeting as to how that went, but I'm sure you guys will probably avail yourself of that decision.
And Ryan, you said that's on the July 1st meeting?
It has been scheduled for July.
Scheduled for the July 1st meeting? Okay.
I would like to make one statement on that, just
Sure.
because after that, I did a lot more reading, you know, because, I mean, a lot of it was how I felt about what I read and how I felt about, and I was like, you know, I don't want to sit up here and be that guy, you know, I need, so I read a lot about it, and one thing that really stuck to me was, for PD, it has to benefit the public somewhere. There has to be public benefit. I didn't see anything in that one that benefited anybody but the people that lived in there. That ain't the public. So that'll be one of the things that I'm very interested in talking with the board about and seeing how they feel and where we go.
And that's definitely probably the bulk of the conversation and the negotiations is the waivers, which is what the applicant is seeking, and then the public benefit, which is the county side. And that's 90% of the work that we do with a PD.
I think, Mr. Chairman, that's why the minutes are important, because I believe the BCC will get a copy of the backup. So that's why I wanted to bring that forward, so they have everything that was discussed. And
Yes, and the timing is actually good because tonight you all just approved those minutes.
Right.
So we do have adequate time to get those as an attachment. Originally, we had intended for that project to go to the June 17 meeting, which timing-wise, they would have got maybe a draft unapproved version, but now they'll have the officially approved version in their backup.
And for the minutes of this meeting, will the discussion about the minutes from the 22nd show up?
I didn't think it constituted a change.
Okay.
Well, regardless, it was rejected, so it won't make a difference.
Right.
Just a count.
Sure.
which does sometimes look different when you look at it as 5-2 instead of 4-3.
And there is that perception
But I
that,
think Mark clarified, though, that he intended to vote for the project.
Well, he intended to vote against the motion,
Against it.
whether or not he was going to vote for the
Well,
project.
no, the motion at that point was to turn it down.
Right.
Voted,
So you vote against it, that's voting for the project. Am I wrong?
he voted
There's
with it.
there's other options. I mean, we'll never know. I
Well,
can't-
I can clarify if you'd like. I wanted to, not to put the project in the trash can, but to have further discussions, see if they could possibly work with the RS3 as opposed to the PD, or some other further discussion as opposed to that, just killing it all together.
I think the only way it would work is if they came back as RS3.
There's
being denied.
again, there's a
guess there
million
were
different ways,
reasons why they
outcomes.
didn't wanna do
They
that.
we could have went back to the drawing, but I mean, again, the verbal vote wasn't 100% clear, that's why we called the roll call. Mark has made it clear that he voted no for the outright denial. What might have been is what might have been, but I'm confident in how everything shook out for the record. Susan, anything for you?
No, other than I want to say thank you too for bringing up the point about, I'm sorry, Commissioner, you mentioned feelings and sometimes how we feel. And just to remind this board that, while sometimes, and I know because I'm born and raised here too, and I've said that before, sometimes I may not necessarily feel good about something or like something, but if the facts and the evidence are there, we have to approve or deny based on that. So when you said that, I just thought I wanted to bring that a quick reminder of just that status. Thank you.
Just to piggyback on his search for public benefit on these PDs, do you think there's any, and obviously it would have to be something that was negotiated and worked out very early in that plan development as far as potentially linking any relevant adjacent properties to that Sebastian Trail that we're, looking to create a PD? Is that a wildly crazy idea?
I mean, I think proximity for that particular project.
probably no. Yeah,
But,
just in that near-
there are in fact some PDs in that area, so certainly, or could potentially be, that's the kind of stuff that is very clearly public benefit, and it's a benefit to the project, it's a benefit to the public, so.
To that point, I mean, you made that comment about the land trust.
Right.
If that development had been where it could have been linked through and they could have worked together,
Right.
I think that would have been serious consideration.
One of the things staff has always said is, we can only work with what the property offers. So if the property is proximate to a trail, or the property has sensitive, or the property has, you never know, the property has whatever it might have, then those things are easy. When it gets a little tougher when it's, old growth that's, on a road that's already got turn, it's tough. But I do think the discussion will ultimately go towards better defining both the waivers and the benefits, so I'm happy to have it. Thank you.
I think that'll help in our workshop to get some of that clarified, I think, definitely.
Are there any other planning matters? Any information on upcoming meetings, anything like that?
We will certainly be having the second meeting in June, and that will be a big one. We have the ear-based amendments, which are a litany of comp plan amendments. So we will be having that meeting.
You mean second in July?
No, in June, the next, in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today.
26?
Yes.
Attorney matters?
Just that Ms. Attorney Schroller will be sitting in for me on that meeting, so if you see a different face, I'll just be out of town at a CLE, but I will be back. But Ms. Schroller will be in as the county attorney that night.
Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.